You're listening to the Holistic Nootropics Podcast, your home for holistic, evidence-based cognitive enhancement strategies. And now your host, Eric Levi.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Holistic Nootropics Podcast, where we discuss using nootropics, biohacking, and nutrition to help you boost your cognition. My name is Eric, and we have an awesome show planned for you today with my guest, Sarah Kleiner, also known as the Carnivore Yogi. Sarah is the creator of the Carnivore Yogi YouTube channel, where she regularly posts content all about the benefits of the carnivore diet, recipes, stories from her journey, and interviews with health experts. Sarah, welcome to the Holistic Nootropics Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited to talk to you. I love your channel. I love the message you're putting out there. I love what you're doing. And I think we're going to have a great convo. This is going to be fun.
Cool. Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. Before we jump into that podcast, just want to give a quick shout out to all the new listeners and viewers of the Holistic Nootropics channel. If you are new here, if you're given a little sample, a little tasty taste, you're dipping your toes in for the first time, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that little bell icon so you can get notified every single time a new video or podcast drops. If you are listening to this on the audio version, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave the podcast a 5-star review if you do enjoy what you're listening to. And if you don't enjoy what you're listening to, do that anyways. Give a 5-star review because, you know, it's good to give. It's good to be compassionate. It's good to put good stuff out in the universe. It'll make you feel better. And if you are someone who is interested in finding the best quality supplements and nootropics on the market today, head on over to holisticnootropics.com and download a copy of my free supplement buying guide. This is a fully comprehensive guide that will walk you through ingredient by ingredient on how to find the best quality supplement products on the market today. Because as my guest today probably knows, there is a lot of junk being sold out there on the market. The supplement industry is a $100 billion industry, and most of it is junk. You got a lot of amateurs out there, fly-by-night operations. People know they can make a quick buck in the supplement world. So what they do is they have these kind of shanty, kind of junky supplement manufacturing things, and they put these fillers and preservatives. You know, they've done tests on a lot of supplements out there too, and they find that so few supplements actually have the product that you are buying in the product itself, which is just bananas. It's like buying a banana and it being like, you know, I don't know, a grapefruit or something, you know? So the supplement industry is a Wild West industry. So what I've done is I put together a free guide for you to find the best quality products and the ingredients in these products to specifically look out for to make sure you buy the best stuff out there, because you buy the best supplements, you boost your health, you boost your life, you boost your brain. So with that, let's jump into the podcast today with Sarah. Sarah, like I said at the outset, I am so excited to talk to you because you have such an interesting YouTube channel. You have such an interesting, like, whole brand. And I'm so fascinated by people who are doing these interesting things on the internet, you know, who are basically bringing in these alternative perspectives that kind of blow people's minds a little bit, you know, like, oh my God, a yogi who's a carnivore? Like, you can't even wrap your head around what that even means. So I would love to have you talk a little bit about, you know, what is your personal health journey? What brought you to yoga? What brought you to carnivore? And what brought you to the point of wanting to share all this with the world?
Yeah, well, what really brought me to yoga was my daughter, and she will be 15 in December. So it's been a long time that I kind of got into yoga. She had a severe regression at the year 8 of 1 when she first turned 1, lost all of her speech, language, eye contact, just like snap of a finger, just gone. Like one day she's talking, the next day she's not. And that was kind of my red pill moment, I guess, that I was just like, wait a second, like I did everything everyone told me to do. And now I'm in this situation with my kid, and now I have to help her because she can't talk. She's got all these issues, and she got an autism diagnosis, of course. And, you know, in the midst of all of that, of me trying to go through a health journey for her and then make changes for the whole family, because she's our only child right now. I discovered yoga because it was very stressful. Like I was dealing with like the grief of, thinking I'm going to have a child and have them be a certain way. And then now having a child that is completely different and has a ton of challenges. I had to quit my job and it was really stressful. To basically I never had planned on being a stay-at-home mom, but I left corporate America, the desk job, everything to be with her because I was like, she needs me. And so that's when I took my first yoga class because I almost had a nervous breakdown. We were also flying all over the country, seeing different doctors. Like I'm a seeker. That's kind of, if you watch my channel, you'll see I try to interview a ton of people, get perspectives. I'm always like trying to learn more. And so she was the catalyst that was like, I can't trust allopathic medicine anymore. I can't trust like the guidelines. I can't trust what we're being told because this happened to my child. And that again sent me on this rabbit hole. But in the middle of going down this crazy rabbit hole, flying all around the country, seeing different doctors, trying to help her, literally, like I almost had a nervous breakdown. And so I had always hated yoga people and thought they were weird, hippie, like I was so super conservative, straight laced. But at that point, I was just willing, I was like shifting who I was completely, but then I was just willing to try anything at that point. And so I found a yoga studio nearby. It had to be super extreme, hardcore for me to be interested. So it was Bikram yoga. So it was 90 minutes, 105 degrees, and that was the first time that when I was taking those classes that I would actually feel some kind of peace and that I was not feeling like super stressed and all this dread and all these feelings about my life. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like yoga, and I would go like 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And it was like my therapy. It helped me to get through some really tough times. And then I decided I wanted to be a teacher. So my husband was like, well, you can't go back to corporate America because I still need, you need to take her to therapies and be hands-on. But if you wanted to get trained to be a teacher and pick up some classes here and there, sure. So I became a yoga teacher, went to training and started teaching full time. She went to preschool eventually. It was going from like 9 to 3. So the time when she's at school, I'm either teaching or practicing. So it became like a big part of my life was a yoga thing. And in that process, I became vegan. I was vegan for like 2.5 years until my health, because I thought that was the healthiest diet, and my health completely went down the drain. Dental problems, injuries that wouldn't heal, just a myriad of issues. I was the skinniest I'd ever been in my life. I was like a size 0, and I'm pretty tall. Like you don't want to be a size 0 when you have my body frame and my height. Like not a good idea. It does not look good. And so finally, one of my yoga teachers took me aside and was like, yeah, I know what you're trying to do. But one of the first principle of ahimsa, which is non-harming in yoga, is actually that you don't do harm to yourself. And that's what you're doing right now by trying to be vegan. Like you need animal foods. And so I've been eating animal foods ever since like 2014. But my health, a lot of it was stress. Like we've been through a lot with my daughter. She'll be 15. She still doesn't speak. She spells to communicate, but she doesn't speak. She has a ton of challenges and it's tough. So I think a lot of stress really does affect your body, even when you try to mitigate it. And then just, kind of not perfect diet. I was eating mostly a paleo diet, but, even those things were starting to cause me issues. So in 2018, the end of the year, I was kind of bottoming out again with my health. Like I had a bunch of joint pain, inflammation, gut issues. Like I would get really distended, bloated, gassy, just horrible stomach issues. They diagnosed me with IBS. And then I was at the point where I couldn't practice yoga the way that I wanted to because my joints were hurting so bad. And I knew instinctively that at 39 years old, that was not normal. And so again, I started seeking more. And a friend of mine who is a functional medicine doctor was like, hey, I could do your labs. I could take you in as a patient. I could work some stuff up for you. But I think if you tried the carnivore diet, it would actually help with a lot of the stuff that you've got going on. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, that's completely insane. And I was like, hell no. And then I kind of thought about it and I was like, what else am I going to do? Like, I have tried all this other stuff. It's not working. So I said, I'll do it for 30 days. After 2 weeks, I was back practicing yoga, pain-free. Gas, bloating, everything was gone. And then after a month, I was like mentally feeling so amazing, like that I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this, because I have never felt this good before. And that did it for total of 2 years, completely strict, no cheating, no nothing. And then the last year, I've kind of played around a little bit with seasonal eating, adding in, more ancestral foods. And I kind of go back and forth between strict carnivore more so in the winter. And then when it's spring, summer, when there's more things out in season, I kind of am more open to experiment with those things. But I still definitely believe that diet helped me tremendously with just a myriad of health issues. And so that's what kind of made me want to share with everyone, because I'm like, number one, how many people have health issues that they could overcome if they try this? And number two, how many people are like stuck, in this yoga dogma, like you have to be vegan, vegetarian in order to do yoga, be spiritual, any of that stuff. And that's total BS. Like you can do both. You can eat meat and you can have spiritual practices. So I started my page kind of as a joke, my Instagram page, like completely as a joke. And then like it kind of blew up and people were asking me questions all the time. Like, how do I do this? And da, da, da. And so instead of just sitting there typing people's answers to questions all day, I decided to create a YouTube channel to just start answering a lot of these questions. And then that's kind of evolved into what it is now today.
Wow. Yeah. And it's like you said, when you think about how many people are dealing with these same problems, like as I've been in my own kind of holistic health journey and, kind of gone down this road of, podcasts and YouTube channels, and you put yourself out there in Facebook groups, you start to realize just the sheer amount of people that are suffering with, gut issues are the biggest by far. And then those turn into like autoimmune disorders and chronic fatigue and joint pain and all of these things. And you're like, this is endemic. This is crazy. It's like the amount of people that are, it's like I look at people differently now. Like I walk down the street and I'll see a pretty girl, and I'll be like, man, she's pretty, she's beautiful, she's got it going on. But I also think like, I wonder if she has IBS, Whenever I see pictures of like good looking people out at a bar, I just can't help but think like they probably have Crohn's, or they probably have some autoimmune, or they probably have weird skin things. And you don't see that in the Instagram.
No,
photos.
You can't.
But when you live that kind of lifestyle, and I know that's not what you were doing, but I know so many people now that, I'm 40 and I'm like past that point of like, oh, my life's in the bars and the clubs, whatever.
Yeah.
And now you can see the aftermath of that kind of reckless lifestyle. And now all those people are like, oh my God, I got to go to this doctor. I've got this joint pain. I got to go see this endocrinologist. They're just going from doctor to doctor to doctor. And then they have the nerve to make fun of you, they have the nerve to like make fun of you and your weird diet. Like, if you're the person, like I bring my own food everywhere. I don't eat out, ask I'm my grandma. I'm the person who asks the guy at the wedding, like, hey, could you not put so much MSG in the thing? Hey, could you cook it with butter and not oil, but you realize it's like those little things make the difference between waking up feeling good and waking up in pain, brain fog, needing 5 coffees just to get out the door in the morning.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and the thing is, like, you can get away with a lot of stuff in your 20s, but once you get into your mid 30s, I'll be 43 in June. Like once you start getting in your 40s, late 30s, like the shit hits the fan, honestly. And it's happening younger and younger and younger now. Like I have people coming to me in their 20s now with stuff that people in their 40s are usually complaining about. Like it's happening quicker and it's happening to younger people. And it's like, people don't realize that you have to start at a certain point, kind of training for aging. That's how I look at it. It's like, you're going to spend the majority of your life, if you're blessed enough, if you're lucky enough, in middle age or older. And how painful do you want that to be? If you treat your body like crap in your 20s and 30s, you're going to pay for it in your 40s, 50s and beyond. And you will have a miserable existence if you get the blessing of living that long. If you don't get some sort of mitochondrial illness like cancer from breaking your body down and it takes you out early. So that's what I don't think a lot of people just kind of have this like Superman mentality when they're younger. And it's it's really catching up to people now.
Yeah. And now that, I'm a new father, my kid is 3 months old, and I just
congratulations.
Thank you. I think about this all the time. Like the amount of just dog shit that we put in babies right now.
Oh God.
I mean, if you need formula, I challenge you to go to a grocery store and look for formula and not want to take every single bottle of formula and just throw it across the freaking store. When you start looking at the ingredients that are in these things, it's like soy, it's canola oils, vegetable oils, food color, like all this crap. You're like, no, I don't want this shit in my baby. My baby's pure. He's got this pure, digestive tract. Like everything I do now is going to build on to like when he's 1, and then when he's 2, and then it's like you start the kid off, and then all the freaking bottles are plastic, you don't want to feed your kid cold. So you want to heat it up. So you put dog shit formula into a plastic bottle, you heat it up, and now you're sucking down dog shit formula with hot plastic, BPA. And even if it's BPA, it's like, well, there's a whole suite of other plastic crap that goes right into the thing, right into the formula. And then, okay, fine. You don't want to feed your kid that stuff. Well, then the mom's going to breastfeed. Well, a lot of moms now have a hard time breastfeeding because they've been so polluted with all of these chemicals. A lot of moms have a hard time making milk. The stress robs the milk from the baby. And then if you are able to produce the milk, what is the mom's diet like? At that point, like the mom's diet has to be so dialed in to make sure the kid gets the right nutrients. So it's like you said, we're seeing this in kids. We're seeing this in 20-year-olds. Well, yeah, when you look at the stuff that the kids have to eat out there, and then they start eating solid foods. They make it to 3, 4, 5 years old. Look at the freaking baby food that's out there. Look at the Gerbers. Look at all that crap. It's like, what are we doing with kids? And then, I've been thinking so much about this, so I'm sorry for the rant, but like, it's like, then what do you do? Well, the parents are so stressed, like you said, it's like, if you're going to work a corporate job, then you got to take your kid to daycare. And the daycare people, they don't give a shit about your kid. They're like,
well, now they're like, with the kids at daycare, they're like making them wear masks and putting hand sanitizer on them. And it's like, why are you trying to destroy my kids' social skills and their microbiome? And their microbiome. It's insane. Like, do not ever allow a child to use hand sanitizer. It's like the worst thing you could possibly allow. It's crazy. So, and then you think about school. I'm like, no, you got to homeschool because kids are being brainwashed with all. It's just, we could talk about this all day because they're being brainwashed,
and then they go to the cafeteria and their brain is being, just washed out completely with whatever the food is that they put in there. And then, the kid's metabolism is going crazy because he's just been eating sugar, all day. So it's like, okay, well, you got to get a snack. Well, thank God there's vending machines with all kinds of, snacks available. For God forbid, we're not going to let the kid have sugar or all of these, toxic things. So to bring it back to what you were saying, it's like, of course we see all of these issues. Of course we see type 2 diabetes in 15-year-olds.
Yeah, we're seeing PCOS in young girls that haven't even gotten their cycle yet. I'm like, how is that an 8-year-old got PCOS? Like, wow. How is that even a thing? It's literally happening now. And it is a direct result, I believe. I mean, there's so many things, like even when you go back to talk about babies, look at diapers, look at the ingredients in the diapers, look at the ingredients in the wipes, look at the ointments you're putting on your baby's skin. That's endocrine disruptors that we start disrupting their endocrine system from the time that they're born. And most people, like I said, when this happened with my daughter, that she regressed, lost her speech, everything was gone. That's when I was like, holy shit, I've been poisoning my kid. I listened to everyone that said, this is safe, this is safe, this is fine, this is fine. And they were full of it. It was wrong. And, once that you go through that kind of experience, you just don't see the world the same ever again. And people can call, I mean, I've been called a witch, heretic, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit, because this is my life and it's my story. It's what happened to me. I know tons of other people, same situation, same exact thing happened. And so when are people going to wake up and actually be willing to listen to people like me? When are they going to do that and take the freaking wool out of their ears, and get their head out of the sand and stop just trusting blindly all these regulations and all these, this is a safe, no, it's not. You can't trust that anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the yoga component is so interesting to me because I don't have a similar story, but I got really into yoga some years ago. And then I also went vegan, for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And I was like, not just strict vegan, I was like annoying vegan. I was too. Like blaming everybody for
sprouting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to live like right next to this 24-hour like fruit and vegetable markets in Astoria, Queens, New York. And I would just like roll out, I'd come home at like 2 a.m. from being out, and I'd stop in and I would just get giant stocks of kale. And I mean, they had like this broccoli, it was insane, and spinach. And I mean, just massive carrots. And then in the mornings, I would make these just insanely huge smoothies. I think I was talking about yoga at first. And I got carried away on this, but the point is that I was vegan, and I was like, see, this is cool, man. Cause it's like vegetables are healthy. And it's like, of course, the more vegetables you get, the better you are and the better you do for the planet. And wow, look at me. Wow. And then I was literally like, if you know a Vitamix, I was basically filling a Vitamix all the way to the top. All the way to the top of the smoothie. And it was like just insane, like 2 or 3 giant stalks of kale and all this crap. Right. And all of a sudden, I wasn't consciously thinking my health was falling apart, because like, oh yeah, I feel great. And I got like these bags under my eyes, and my skin is just like cracking, like painfully cracking. And the worst was I was going to the gym and I was working out, and I would do dips. And this thing would happen where I would do dips, and then like my chest would just pop. And then it started happening in yoga class where I'd just be in yoga and it was just like pop. And it was so loud, like you could hear it across the room. But I was like, no, I never even thought like, oh, it's the diet, Yeah. And then also I had this thing where my tongue always felt like it was burning, and I didn't know what that was.
Weird.
I talked to this doctor on a podcast just a few weeks ago, and she's a neurologist, and she was saying like her B12 deficient patients, they get like burning in their hands and feet. So I think it was like I had a severe B12 deficiency too. So all this like culminates to where it's like, one time I was in Mexico with a friend, and we just go out to this restaurant, and I was hammered, and I just went to, cause it was like an all you can eat, like meat and pork and all this. I just cleared plates and plates of meat and fish. Like my body, I was on another level where my body was like, don't even think, dude. There's dead animals everywhere. Do it. You were the worst person ever. I was like, I don't even care. And actually my skin cleared up like literally overnight. It was crazy. But I can totally relate to this like this diametrical thing in your mind where it's like, I'm compassionate, I love animals, I don't want things to be killed, I love mercy, but then you're like, but my body needs to be healthy, so like what do we do?
I couldn't even do chaturanga anymore because my shoulders would pop out of joint. And I'd go get body work done, and he's like, I've never seen anyone's shoulders pop out so much. I'm like, I don't know why it's doing this, but I had no muscle to support myself to do these poses. And then they would just break down. Like it was terrible. And my shoulders always hurt. And when I started eating animal foods, I can do all kinds of, chaturanga, crow, handstand, all the things with no pain, no problems, no injuries. And I can build lots of muscle. Couldn't build muscle to save my life as a vegan. I just couldn't do it. So I don't think people talk about these things enough. I think a lot of the vegan, huge influencers on Instagram, you can hide health problems. You don't see their blood work. You don't understand a lot of these influencers have people doing their makeup, their hair, professionally touching up their photos, like doing all this stuff. Oh, I'm healthy. Like, yeah, what's the real story here? What's really going on? Not to say that there's nobody that could ever do vegan and be okay. I do know a couple people that have been all right with it, but I think it's pretty rare. It's the exception and not the rule, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there's definitely, I interviewed this guy. He runs the DNA company. His name's Caution Khan, and they do like these kind of fully comprehensive like DNA analysis. And he was talking about there's some genes that you have that they actually have a specific coding for B vitamins. And of course, like B vitamins are rich in meat. And some people, they have more of a need for animal products than others. They have more of a need for like natural bioavailable B vitamins. So these people who don't have that need for it, I think can get away with a plant-based diet, but most of us like need, we need like the riboflavin, we need the B12, we need the B6, we need all that stuff that comes with, not to mention the bioavailable protein with all the amino acids and all that stuff. Right. So yeah, there's definitely people out there, which is why I'm not crazy about, like, hey, nobody should be a vegan. Like, yeah, like if you feel it and you're feeling good and you're thriving and you're building muscle and you're not having skin issues, like if you can be honest with it, then do it feels right. But
do it works for you, but it just didn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where I'm like, I don't prescribe a diet or say everyone should do a specific diet. I don't believe that at all, because we all live at different latitudes. We all have different haplotypes. We all, it's not so simple as just everyone do this diet. Like we're all very different. And again, the genetics definitely come into play. Where you live comes into play. Someone in Costa Rica should not be eating the same diet as somebody who lives in Canada. Just plain and simple. There's a lot of science behind that. And so when somebody is like, everybody needs to do this diet, I'm like, not really. Like it's not that black and white. People want that black and white thinking. They're attracted to it because it gives them certainty, but it just is not, it's not a thing in my opinion.
Food is the most like personal thing I think that we have, where it's like people are very defensive about their diet. And at the end of the day, it's like, why would I listen to somebody tell me what I should eat when I don't even like that stuff? Like I've had some, I have a friend she's very, she's a little more kind of on like the, I don't even know how to say it, like not like the hippy dippy side, but very like she, the way you feel and that sort of thing. Right. And she actually makes a great point where she says like, animals have this thing where they just kind of know what to eat. Like an animal doesn't look at what it's supposed to eat and go, well, that's not on my diet. That's not vegan appropriate. That's not carnivore appropriate. That's not paleo appropriate. That's not key. That's going to spike my blood sugar. I don't eat. They're like, I eat rabbit, so I'm going to eat that rabbit. I eat gazelles, I'm going to eat that gazelle. I eat, plants, I'm going to eat that plant. And they also go up to these things and they sniff it and they know like that's good or that's not good. Right. And I think we also have that ability, but we're just so perverted with all of this other stuff on top of like our innate intelligence that we overthink it,
Yeah, we do.
It's like if fat feels good, like when you cook a steak in butter, it's effing amazing. You put some salt on it, like that's all you need, right? And it's not even it's amazing because because it hijacks all of my senses, like like a birthday cake will,
donut,
or
exactly.
Like a donut will, but it's like in my soul, like a steak cooked in butter, you just feel like, oh, that's right, that's the good stuff. And some people have that with plants. Some people I also love salad. Like I'll eat a salad and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, But it's like some people like they fight that so hard, and we've really become so disconnected from our own instinctual behavior that yeah, people are just so confused on like what to even do with diet.
Overthinking is a huge disease. I feel like, that's one of the things. I get these messages on Instagram sometimes that are literally like 10 paragraphs long of people like, well, and then I'm like, chill out. Like, you are way overcomplicating this. You are way overthinking this. And I think people, again, kind of get lost in like the mysticism of a specific diet. Like somebody the other day commented on one of my posts because I was drinking milk or something like that. And they're like, oh, doesn't milk throw you out of ketosis? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, or like, drives me crazy. Doesn't dairy make you gain weight? And I'm like, well, if you eat in a calorie surplus, it will. But if you just eat your body's energy requirements, dairy is going to do the same thing as, that it's not going to make you gain massive amounts of weight if you eat dairy. You still have to eat the same amount of energy that your body requires. If you overdo it, yeah, you're going to gain weight. Dairy is easy to overeat. So yeah, that's why people say it's going to make you gain weight, but there's nothing inherent about just having a piece of cheese that's going to make you blow up and gain 10 pounds. But people put this like mysticism around the carnivore diet that it's like, oh, this is, I'm like, oh my God, y'all need to stop overcomplicating stuff. The law of thermodynamics is still a thing. We still have to account for energy in, energy out. And it's not magical or mystical that you can go and eat 10 pounds of beef and not gain weight. Like you can gain weight doing that. So yeah, there's a lot of that. And then it causes people just to overthink things completely.
And metabolism, it's not linear. Right. Even this idea of thermodynamics and calories in, calories out. Yeah. Like I know there's people who like, and I know there's truth to it. Like, obviously, like I fasted for 7 days one time, I lost 15 pounds, right? Yeah. Like I get that there's a lot to that,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's way more complex than that because people really undersell like the power of circadian rhythm, for instance.
Yeah, I was about to say that was my big like aha moment that put me into the quantum world last year, was that I was like, had gained about 20 pounds in 2020 and I didn't change anything about my diet. Like I really wasn't overdoing it. I was staying indoors, never seeing sunrise. I had terrible circadian rhythms, didn't know anything about blue blockers, how to protect my eyes, my skin. My vitamin D was like a 33. I never went out in the sun. And I was like, something's got to give, because I'm trying to macro track and calorie track and do all this stuff to lose the weight, and nothing was working. And so that's when I met Dr. Cruz and started kind of diving into that world, and ended up losing 30 pounds by basically dialing in circadian rhythms, by going outside and getting sunlight on my skin. I got my vitamin D up over 100 by like September with no supplements. And that's when it kind of turned around for me, because I didn't have to calorie track and be crazy about fat, protein, and and I was able to lose the weight, and it wasn't super hard. Once I started to understand circadian biology and quantum physics, it was like, whoa, like I've been overcomplicating this shit for my whole life, and most people are.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by quantum physics? Can you explain that?
Understanding things like grounding, understanding how my body is a battery, and how when I'm exposing myself to like non-native EMFs, and when I am doing things to slow down my mitochondria, just understanding more about mitochondrial function. That's what I mean more by quantum physics. Just it's these little tiny changes that you make that make these huge differences in your life. I mean, I started studying deuterium, and I even did like 90 days of deuterium depleted water, which was a pretty cool experience. So that's what I mean more by the quantum physics side of things.
Got you. Yeah. It's like that is a huge part of it, like the negative ions from grounding and the light. I've been so into thinking about light recently, I do red light almost every day.
Same.
In Puerto Rico, I get outside, I try to get some good, like 2:00 in the afternoon sun on me, at least once a day. Because what we forget is like people get so stuck on biochemistry, we're so stuck on molecule, and most people don't even understand. Like I barely understand. I'm taking biochemistry right now. Like I've taken organic chemistry, and this stuff is like still so complex, right? But we're so stuck on biochemistry, on this molecule, this amino acid, this fatty acid, right? This carbohydrate, this glucose, whatever, right? And that stuff is important. But when you go the next layer deep, you realize that these elements, they're made from atoms, and at the heart of every atom is electricity, protons, electrons, and neutrons. And all of those things only work based on electricity. And, you know, the biggest form of electricity is light. So what is your light situation? And then knowing that you have diurnal patterns in your body that, hey, in the morning, cortisol goes up and then it goes down. And then it eventually you start converting serotonin into melatonin and then you go to sleep. Like, this is how crazy, right? Like ancestral health, this is how we were programmed for 2 million years. And in 100 years, we just threw it all out the window, right? So then you start to think like, well, then the diurnal pattern is a real thing. Electricity is a real thing. Well, now we have to start talking about metabolism, because all of this is going to affect how your cells actually utilize fat, how they burn fat, you know? And then, so like when people do this thing where they go, I'm tracking my macros, you know, and they're like, how many carbs did I have? How much fat did I have? It's like, well, what time did you eat all that at?
Right. Because if you eat at night, that's when your body temperature is at a place, your blood pressure is at a place that you can't process that food as well as you can as if you just eat it in the morning. Like, I have the hardest freaking time convincing people to eat breakfast. And if you want to fast, skip dinner. That's how you do it. Because if you're trying to lose weight, stop skipping breakfast, stop drinking black coffee and skipping breakfast, especially women. You are just ruining your body. Like, by doing that, you are really screwing up your hormones, especially women. I get mostly women in their 40s, 50s that come to me that are in perimenopause, and they are just the most hardest time losing weight, hardest time with weight loss resistance. And I'm like, let's talk about how you're eating. Oh, I'm drinking black coffee and doing a HIIT workout at 6 a.m. under blue lights in a gym. I'm like, holy, are you kidding me? No, stop. Sleep until sunrise. If you can, go outside for sunrise, have a nice big fat protein breakfast in the morning. Let's get your leptin turned around. Like, stop eating after sunset. Do not eat a bite after sunset. Cut it off earlier if you can. Like, flipping those things around and then not having to track every single little bite that goes into your mouth, that's going to make a huge difference. But it's like, they kind of don't believe it. They don't, I don't think they want to believe it, because they've been so brainwashed by like this whole intermittent fasting keto thing, that they're like, no, if I eat breakfast, I'm going to be hungry all day. I'll eat more, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you might for a couple of weeks while your body is adjusting, but I guarantee you, once you adjust to it, you're actually going to start losing weight. But it's hard to convince people of that. It really is.
Yeah, because we've been so programmed to think like breakfast food is sugary, carbohydrate-y. It's like you walk around, it's like, I have to have a bagel, you know, I have to have a donut, or like, you get the people who are just hardcore intermittent fasters, keto coffee people.
Oh God, the bulletproof coffee. I'm like, please don't do that. Please stop drinking coffee. Like, I quit drinking coffee a year ago, and it's been huge for me, like absolutely huge, as far as my recovery rates. My HRV has doubled. Like,
interesting.
So many things have improved for me. And I'm actually a fast metabolizer. I had my genes run by Dr. Anthony J. He actually does genetic counseling for special forces. Like, he's genius. And it was just an amazing, like, eye-opening session. And I'm like, I'm a slow metabolizer. He's like, no, you're a fast metabolizer. Caffeine doesn't stay in your system for very long. I'm like, well, shit, it still affects me, Yeah. But yeah, so there's still a cortisol effect that happens if you're just drinking that coffee first thing in the morning. You're not eating, you're not seeing sunrise. Like, you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Yeah. And especially women too. Like, women have, just a hormone cascade, right? Like a hormone hailstorm that happens every single day. And it's like, you have to dial that in first thing in the morning. Otherwise it goes crazy. And, the first thing to go is the thyroid, right? And when the thyroid goes, it's like, you're just, of course, like so many women have this chronic fatigue issue. They feel just like run down, worn out. And like the slightest bit of stress just sends you off the rails. You can't sleep at night. And I think women, men need this because men have testosterone issues too, right? Men are a whole other story, but women, I find like, yeah, you have to do that breakfast. Like, I know a girl, she's actually 43, 44, I think. She follows, like this paleo kind of Rob Wolf diet, which I think is great. I think that's a lot of great stuff there. But she's hardcore into intermittent fasting. And it's like, you probably shouldn't do that, because now she's having like these issues. She's like, I just feel this burning, like in my, I don't know if she says it's in her chest, but she feels like a burning somewhere in her body. And, oh no, tremors. She feels tremors.
Oh, that's not good.
No, that's not good at all. And it makes you realize, like, yeah, your body is not physiologically set up for like what you want to do. This thing, I get it. Like, I intermittent fast. Like, I like to go to like a 16-8 type thing, but I've discovered like my body works well with that. I can fall asleep very easily at night. Maybe my sleep might be a little bit better if I did this, but my sleep is fine for the most part. And of course I could probably experiment and do separate things, but like when you start to feel physical symptoms and it starts kind of robbing your like way of life, and you're in pain, or you're experiencing, like perimenopause symptoms, or, all of these things, it's like, especially for a woman, it's like, hey, look, like, you really need that protein fat in the morning. Like, you have to start with that. And it's actually shocking when you have like a really fatty, proteiny breakfast, you actually are not hungry for a long time.
No, you're not. It stabilizes your blood sugar for the day. If you start with a donut, you're going to be hungry all day. You're going to constantly be wanting to snack that whole day. It wrecks everything. But if you literally have a nice fat protein breakfast, it's going to, kick all those hormones off where and you see sun is a big part of that too. You still need sunrise and UVA light, but if you do that in combination with a nice big fat protein breakfast, your whole day is going to be different, and you're not going to be hungry all day. You're not going to be snacking all day.
Yeah. It's crazy to think like how much cereal I ate when I was a kid.
Because we're about the same age. I'll be 43 in June, but it was like a kid growing up in our area. It was like Lucky Charms and Special K, and like we'd have like 6 or 7 different types of cereal, and then with skim milk, of course. And then you like mix them all together, and you'll eat cereal for dinner sometimes because your parents are working, and we're like the latchkey kids, so we have to kind of figure out our own thing for dinner. So it's like cereal, of course. It's a cereal like twice a day.
And they still have it.
Grew up on. They do. It's like, no, that does not come in my house.
No, it's like, okay, so then that transfers. Well, you're an adult now, so you don't eat cereal. So what do you eat in the morning? Muffins. It's like,
bagels.
I eat bagels, and there's people who do, like, when I lived in New York, and you just walk down the street and you see all the bakeries.
Oh God.
And it's like in the window, it's like all the bread. It's just so much bread. I mean, just from the get-go. And personally, I mean, gluten obviously is a problem for many people, but I feel like gluten is almost like the last thing I worry about with bread.
Same.
I feel like it's the carbohydrate, it's the timing of the bread, it's like it's like all of like the filler stuff, the bleach, the like just the whole gamut of stuff. And it's like when you look at the ingredients of bread, like I made a video about this a long time ago. It's like there's sugar, and like they put sugar in like whole wheat bread, like all like several different kinds too, right? So it's not just like sugar, it's like the corn syrup, the dextrose, the all of those different flavors of the rainbow. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, I don't even like bread. It tastes like crap to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then it's like the gluten thing too, right?
I have like 6 leaky gut genes, so I don't even mess with with bread at all.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably get a lot of people who are like, I've got the gluten thing, especially going back to the thyroid thing, like the gluten thing is like the worst thing for the thyroid. And it's like women, bread is so devious because people, it's like you tell them like, you can't eat bread. It's like, they can't not eat bread. Yeah. I have a friend, I'm like, if you just didn't eat bread, you would probably lose 20 pounds.
Yeah, easily. Totally. Yep.
And he's like, I can't eat breakfast and not have like toast.
Oh my gosh. I can't think about I haven't had bread in so many years. It's just like one of those things we just don't do. Like even my husband is like, he won't get sandwiches anymore. Like we used to have sandwiches and stuff. He won't do it. Like he's good about getting naked burgers and stuff like that. Like I've kind of gotten him on my wavelength now, which is awesome. But
That's great.
yeah, we don't even consider bread in the house.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, sandwiches, right? Like,
Yep.
I love like when these vegan doctors come out and they're like, see, here's a study about people who eat cheeseburgers and this and that. It's like, you realize the cheeseburger is 2 parts bread, 1 part meat, right? Like and 1 part cheese, but it's more bread than it is meat. Right. Yeah. So like, what are we talking about here?
And then are we putting mayonnaise that has like seed oils and all kinds of other sauces that have seed oils on them also? And what's the meat cooked in? Again, seed oils. Like it's not the beef at all that's causing these issues. It's all the other crap.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about burgers too. Burgers and like any meat that's cooked is like, they never take into account what is the meat cooked in.
Yeah.
Because you go to any restaurant, most restaurants out there, it's cooked in some kind of vegetable
seed
oil.
oil. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
And
like we eat at home for pretty much everything. Like you're saying, like you just bring your food. That's what I do. My sisters are used to like, if we're going out to dinner somewhere, I usually either bring my own or I eat before we go. And I just get a water with lemon or something to sip on. And I'm so psycho about water now. I've even started bringing my own water. So yeah, because I'm like, oh, now I've like learned about water and easy water in the body. And I'm like, oh, my water has to be structured, spring water, Quinton minerals, like it's like psychotic, but I just feel better that way.
Yeah. But like the thing is you don't have to rely on the pharmaceutical industrial complex to make you feel better.
I haven't taken any, I was like on SSRIs at the age of 14. I was on SSRIs, Ritalin, started taking trazodone for sleep when I was like 18. I was on like 5 or 6 different medications up until like my mid 30s. And it's been almost 7 years that I've not taken a single thing for anxiety, depression, sleep. I don't take medications, and that is literally because of my lifestyle. And I know that. I know it's what I eat, what I put in my body, how I treat myself. I don't need those things. My sisters, I love them both to death, but they are both on medications for depression and anxiety. I'm going back to my genes again. Yeah, I have several genes that are like, Dr. J was like, yeah, you have the anxiety gene. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. That explains a lot.
I didn't know there was a gene for that. I thought it was called being Jewish.
No. Well, my husband, but
there you go.
I'm clearly not Jewish, but
clearly not Jewish.
Married into a Jewish family, so I can vouch for that anxiety thing. But yeah, there's definitely genes for that. I thought I had an alcoholism gene because I'm such an addict. Like I get addicted to things so easily, and he's like, no. That's you don't have alcoholism gene, you have an anxiety gene, which makes you prone to addiction because you're prone to self-medication. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah. It's like these, when you start diving into that's again, why like individualizing your own diet, and you can't listen to people you don't know on the internet, because it's like, run your genes. Where are you at? Like, what should you be playing to, play to that. And you'll probably be better. I mean, going back to like this thing of like, you feel a little crazy because you have to bring your food with you, or like, you have to eat before you go out with people to a restaurant. Like, I have a family member who's like that. Like she had serious Crohn's disease, and like for like she went down to like 90 pounds, as like a 60-year-old woman, and like very scary. Right. Yeah. And she luckily found like a holistic nutritionist who actually got her going on hardcore, like kind of carnivore-ish diet, and basically rehabbed herself back. But now she is like the person, she's like, she can't mess with pizza. She can't mess with like going out, and it's like, it's literally the difference between like a Crohn's disaster and like being able to function for another 24 hours. And it's like, people can say whatever they want, but you know what? You're not going into bankruptcy because you owe your insurance. You're getting charged for a gallbladder removal surgery, and then the subsequent medication you have to take for that, and the complications that come with that. You're not on the SSRIs. And until people, the mainstream will never talk about it because they're all funded by the pharmaceutical companies. Right. But, people like you who are out there saying these things, and really being brave and putting it out there. Like I'm a strong believer that the more people that start to think like that, like front load your health costs, because the back load is really, really bad. But if you front load the health costs, you'll have more money, you'll have more health, you'll just be happier and better off.
And the older I get, the more I'm like, I don't care if I have some multi-million-dollar house or trips or any of that. If I don't feel good, if I am not like my best, healthiest self, what good is any of that going to do? Like my husband and I have this conversation all the time because he's started to get to the point where he doesn't want to go and get like ice cream and he doesn't want to go get pizza. Like he's just like, can you just cook the wild salmon at home? Can you just, cook something at home for us? I'm like, sure. I don't mind. I love doing that. That's fine. Because he's like, I don't want to feel bad. And we're just like, as we get older, as we get into our 40s, we're like, we don't want to feel like crap when we're older. We want to be, if we want to travel when we're in our 60s, we don't want to have like fake knees and like a cane and just, feeling like on all these medications and feeling like crap. And the more I dive into things, the more I talk to different doctors, people, experts, and just the more I learn, the more I see you don't have to do that. It is a choice in a lot of regards.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is, now that humans are living longer, again, like 100 years really kind of messed with a lot of things, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now this is the learning curve. We've never lived as long as we have before. And now you have like the longevity movement, people that want to live to 150, right?
Yeah.
So like, we have to learn how to live like this. We can't eat like we did in the 50s.
Yeah.
If we want to live to, like, we started living to 70 in the 50s, but it was really ugly from like 40 on. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, so now we have to kind of reshape like how, okay, so if we want to live to 80, but not like be falling apart at 40, well, what do we do? Well, yeah, you got to do all these new crazy things. And in 30 years, they won't seem like crazy, but like, no, you have to go get you have to go out and get sun. You have to cook your own food. You have to demand that if you go to a restaurant, they cook your meat in butter and not vegetable oil. If you want to like not get these crazy, IBS and type 2 diabetes and all of these things.
Exactly. Yeah. My husband still thinks I'm a little bit insane, but he's like, okay, well, you're aging really well. Like he sees how a lot of other people in my family look starting at this age and even younger. And he's like, okay, if you need to go like cold plunge on the deck in your bikini in like 30-degree weather, fine, do it. Because I'll like literally stand outside soaking wet after I've been in a cold plunge, like just in a bathing suit on the deck. And he's like, you're going to die of hypothermia. I'm like, no, I'm strengthening my immune system. Like, this is a good thing, and like wearing my blue blockers and all that stuff. And he's like, okay. At some point he'll start wearing them. But for now, I just have like screens covering up the TV. Like I bought some like protective screens. You can buy those now if your family's like, it's going to be stubborn and not wear blue blockers. So I'm always like changing out the light bulbs and just doing stuff that drives him crazy. But he's just like, look, whatever you're doing is working. So fine.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of like circling back to, carnivore-ish things. What are your go-tos for like some of these carnivore things? Are you like a ribeye person? Do you get into like kind of, because if you watch someone like Sean Baker, all I see that dude eat is like ribeyes and maybe a pork chop, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like how you kind of mix things up, because it almost seems like what stops people from getting into this is like the lack of variety.
Yeah, I really probably eat more of a variety of foods than most people do on the carnivore diet. Every morning for breakfast, I'll have my breakfast casserole, which was like pasture-raised eggs and, sausage, cheese that I've baked. And I just bake that on a Sunday and eat that all week, like a square of it. I'll eat a lot of salmon roe. I try to have that 4 days a week. I think that's really important to get your DHA. I love sardines. I'll have sardines with like Primal Kitchen mayo and some eggs for lunch. Of course, I do ribeyes. I love ribeyes. That's probably my favorite cut. I like filet mignon as well. Those are really good. I really do a lot of seafood. A lot of people don't. They skip the seafood when they go carnivore. But the more and more I've kind of gotten into Jack Cruz's work, the more I'm like, at least 4 days a week, I'm eating seafood. So I'm not one of these like all beef people. I do have a really awesome local farm. And so I get these really great pasture raised eggs. We get raw milk, we get raw cream, we get raw cheese, raw butter. So I include all those things in my diet, lots of egg yolks. And yeah, I'm not super strict carnivore. I am during the winter, but now that it's starting to be spring and summer, I will kind of see what's available, what's seasonable and start, mixing up a little bit, maybe having some fruit here and there, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. I'm not opposed to that. I'm more about eating local and seasonal. These people that are like, you have to have fruit for your thyroid and they eat fruit year round. I think that's completely a circadian mismatch. It's not good for you. But if you want to eat some watermelon in the middle of the summer while you're sitting out in the sun, sure, go for it, because the UVB light is going to help to deplete the glycogen. Your body can appropriately handle that in the middle of the day under UVB light. Absolutely. But not in the middle of December. So a lot of carnivore people would be like, oh, for hearing me say that, but that's kind of where I've evolved to. Like I said, I did super strict, mostly all beef and eggs. I didn't even do any seafood for a couple years. And I did have some deficiencies at the end of that. And I wasn't feeling my best. And so that's when I added in the seafood. That's when I started doing a little more raw dairy and things like that. And then, like I said, last summer, when I just said, I'm going to try to have some carbohydrates and see how my body does. And I always am like flipped back into ketosis the next day by like 11 a.m. No problem.
Got you. And what were your deficiencies?
My omega-3/6 ratio is ridiculous. Like I had like no omega-3s at all. Wow. Which some people are like, what, no big deal. But I actually, after talking with Dr. Twyman, who's a quantum cardiologist, he's like, that's actually a big indicator. It's
a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's not good for you. Like my 6s were off the charts and my 3s were like minimal. And I think a lot of carnivores, if they tested that, they would probably be in a similar situation. So that's why I do make the seafood a priority for myself. I had issues with my creatinine, and my blood urea nitrogen was really high. And I think that's because I was eating just way too much protein and not enough fat. And I also still was having some gut issues. So I had to kind of dial in my digestion a bit better with a few, like adding in HCl, adding in some digestive enzymes. That helped quite a bit to bring those numbers down. And then just adding in more butter, beef fat, beef suet, and taking the protein. Some carnivores will eat like 200 grams of protein per day. I probably eat closer to like 90, which people, oh, that's low. I'm like, that's not low. It's not low at all. But that's more where I stick to, is like probably around 90 grams of protein per day. So I don't really eat, like if you go search carnivore diet, like on Instagram, and you look at the plates of food, I'm different than that now. I used to be like that, but then I was like, not optimal kidney function, not optimal omega-3 to 6, just some things that on paper looked bad. I felt fine, but it was like on paper, this is kind of a warning sign that things could go out of whack in the future.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to like make that observation, because at the end of the day, like the carnivore diet, it's still a fairly new concept. And, I do see like a lot of people in like, diet should not become religion.
Right.
It should become, it should become like just what you do. Right. And you should treat it like you do anything else, where you go, hey, I'm going to do it. It's an experiment, and then see where it goes. And be honest with your blood work. Like, whoever says omega-3s are not important is not like on board with what real health is. Right. Like, what are you talking about? So it's like not letting it become religion and being flexible. Like, just thinking about watermelon on a hot summer day, like,
doesn't that sound amazing?
It's amazing. I just finally found, like, here in Puerto Rico, like a watermelon that was grown locally, and like with seeds and everything. It was, oh my God, haven't had a watermelon that good in so long. Right.
Yeah. I didn't even have watermelon last summer, but I definitely plan on this summer, because we have them seasonally here in Georgia. So I'll be having some peaches. I'll have watermelon. We've got some great peaches here too. So
of course
I'm doing it this year.
How can you be in Georgia and not eat freaking peaches?
Exactly.
And fruit is like the funniest thing to me because I always have like, I hate when I hear people demonize fruit. I'm like,
Oh my
are you out of your
gosh.
effing mind? Like, it's like
Yeah.
candy. No, it's not like candy at all. What are you effing talking about? It's completely different. It's,
Right.
I don't know. Does candy have fiber? Does candy have all of these
Right.
other vitamins and minerals that are like perfectly compounded by nature to
Right.
work synergistically together in your body to produce, you know, minerals and, you know,
Yeah.
to help all of your digest. Like, there's so many benefits to fruit. It's like you're effing out of your mind. Some of these keto people, it's like
crazy.
It's like, look, like you can just stop it. You can stop trying to impress me. I don't care. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm on board with what you're saying. Like I'm on board with ketosis. I'm on board with fat and protein and low. I'm on board. But then you just take it to that next level where you start talking bad about fruit and I go, you lost me.
Well, the thing is, some people are just like, oh, you know, I'm not metabolically healthy, so I shouldn't have fruit. And I'm like, the way you get metabolically healthy is that eventually you develop metabolic flexibility. You want to be able to switch back and forth from ketosis to glucose. Like that was what I did last summer. And I actually do think it helped me to drop some of that 30 pounds because I started getting my metabolism more healthy. Like I said, I could be in deep ketosis on a Friday, Saturday, have baked potato, have some fruit, whatever, you know, healthy carbs. Sunday morning, test my ketones by 11 a.m. They're over a 1.0 again. Like I'm back in it real quickly. So I can go from deep ketosis to not to back in it. And like that, I think is more of an ideal way that our metabolism should operate rather than always in ketosis. You know, I think that some people that are just always in ketosis end up not necessarily having the same issues as somebody who is like diabetic, like only glucose, but it's just like their body is only good at that one thing. And I think having that variability actually is good for your body. I think it is good for your metabolism, for your gut, all of those things. And I think that that's where a lot of the keto people miss the boat, honestly.
Yeah. And I've had this conversation, this dude, Ben Azadi, who does
I know Ben.
this pod, Keto Camp. He's super cool.
Yeah.
And I was like,
his book Keto Flex is his book. Yeah.
He's all about keto flexibility and metabolic flexibility. And I was like really trying to, you know, like just like pull the propaganda out of him. Like, come on, man. And he's like, no, he's like, I believe in like, you got to go back and forth. Like you can't just be in ketosis all the time. And I've been saying that forever. Like from the moment I heard about ketosis, I also was like, well, let's see the counterpoints of this. And the counterpoint is like, yeah, you need your pancreas to produce insulin. You know, like you need to have that response. Your cells need to know how to respond to glucose, right? Your body needs to know how to respond to glucose. Like that's nature, you know, that's like how, you don't want to eat bagels in the morning. Right. Yeah. You don't want to eat ice cream at night, of course, right? You don't want to eat potato chips, but like fruit, potatoes, you know, starchy carbohydrates, throw those in and you're going to be okay, especially if you are like more kind of on the 90% high fat, high protein, you know, you feel satiated, you'll feel it in your body. Like you could even go out and you could have a soda and you could have like a ice cream from Baskin Robbins or whatever. And your body's not going to go crazy. Your body's gonna be like, oh, yeah, we know what this is. We know how to deal with this. And you could be somewhat normal. Yeah.
This year, like I said, this year has been the year that I've kind of strayed away from the strict carnivore diet dogma mentality. Like at Christmas this year, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to eat whatever I want today. Like I'm going to have the cinnamon roll. I'm going to have the dessert, whatever. And I did. And I was fine. Like I did not gain 10 pounds. The next day, I just got back onto what I was doing, you know, got into the cold plunge of course, first thing to get the inflammation down, but it wasn't this like giant disaster for my body for me to have some things that I just kind of wanted to have that I don't normally have this one day. It wasn't a big deal. And it didn't send me off into a 3 or 4 month binge. Like a lot of people say, it wasn't that way for me. It's taken me a very long time, I think, mentally to get to that place where I'm not in this all or nothing mentality where it's like, oh, if I have this one day, I have to have it every day. So there's definitely some mental work that's happened with that. But on a physical level, my body recovered just fine. It wasn't some huge disaster where I felt like crap for a full week. It was like, do a cold plunge, maybe get a little extra movement, drink a little extra water, have a steak with butter, cool, you know, and we're fine. So I think people catastrophize, they fear. And I honestly feel like it's, like I said, it is a matter of doing the mental work around the food of like, why do you feel the need to self-medicate with the food? What's the emotion around the bagel or the, the cinnamon roll or whatever? What's going on there,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I have to be a defender of fruit. That's how I feel. You got to be a defender of fruit and potatoes. Like that's just personal to me. I actually am very happy that you mentioned HCl and digestive enzymes because I think that can really help somebody who is transitioning into eating more animal products because
yeah,
the fact is most people's digestion, like, of course, if you have a whole lifetime of eating terribly and then you start developing these digestive disorders and, acid reflux, GERD, H. pylori, like these things are real and they're so prevalent with, like, if you don't have an actual gut diagnosis, but you feel like crap, there's a good chance like GERD is following there in some way. So I just think that people just naturally need that help. And then it could help you really start to digest better these animal proteins and then and animal fats as well. And then it can make the whole transition easier. And then not to mention you get more of the actual nutrition from the food.
Yeah, it was huge for me. And I wish that I had started supplementing earlier. And I know so many people that start carnivore that they haven't been eating a ton of meat. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to digest that. You're not going to have enough stomach acid. You're not going to extract the nutrients. You're not going to get the full benefits of the diet because your digestive system is broken. And after we hit the age of 35, we naturally make less stomach acid. We naturally have less enzymatic function. Most people trying the diet are over 35. And so they've already got that strike against them, as well as not really being used to digesting that much animal protein. And so people come to carnivore or a more keto diet and they have either loose stools or they have constipation. It's usually one or the other. And I'm like, both of those usually can be pretty easily handled if you just add some HCl before your meals and take some enzymes with the meals. Like I see so many people that are like, oh, that's so much better. I'm like, yeah, I know we all want to kind of not take supplements and do this whole all natural ancestral thing, but on the same token, to get there, sometimes you need some support to allow your body to adjust.
Yeah, for sure. So just kind of winding down here, the podcast, I'm curious, I always have to ask people this because it's a nootropics channel. Yeah. Are there any supplements and or nootropics and or biohacking products that you particularly are using right now or that you like or you recommend for people you work with?
I always like just going back to the digestive support, the healthy gut products are my favorite. I have the owner, Steve, onto my channel like once a month to talk about a different topic. But I can't do without the enzymes. Like I've tried so much to not, I'm like, oh, let me just see how I do without them. I just don't feel my best without the digestive enzymes. So I do love those. And then upgraded formulas magnesium I can't live without that one either. Like, cause my sleep is just so much better with that one. And I do regularly do hair tissue mineral analysis just to make sure I still need it. And luckily I have needed it every time I still do the test, but yeah, those are the two that I really am not willing to give up as far as supplements go. And then like nootropics, I'm pretty much just like sunshine, cold plunging. Those are my natural nootropics that I use.
Love it. Yeah, to be honest, that's why I started this whole channel, because the conversation around nootropics is so bad with like people just constantly just trying to add more and more stuff. And I say, no, man, you got to get yourself kind of tear it all down and just try to do as much with as little as you can,
exactly.
So like how many people are just not getting enough sunshine? How many people are not getting enough cold exposure or sauna exposure, like just these two things alone, like you'll realize real quick, you get enough sunshine, you don't need 5-HTP.
No,
you don't need L-tyrosine, right? Like you're going to make enough serotonin and dopamine.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah. And then real quick with the enzymes and the HCl, how do you like to use that? Like timing wise, when you eat, like I find for me, like I like digestive bitters. So I'll take those like kind of 10 to 15 minutes before I eat. The enzymes I used to take also like 15 to 20 minutes before I eat. But now I actually find I have better results when I take them kind of like just when I start the meal. So I'm curious like how you do your regimen with that stuff.
When I take HCl, which I'm doing a pill stop with those right now. I haven't been taking those, but when I do, I usually take those kind of like as I'm preparing the meal, because that's usually when your body's going to start making stomach acid. So I'll take some of those as I'm preparing the meal, and the enzymes I actually will take halfway through my meal. So
Gotcha.
I'll just stop eating halfway with as little water as possible, obviously, and then take those and then finish the meal.
You say obviously, and it's obvious to me, but like, this is like another thing that I watch and I'm like, is anybody counting this? Like, you shouldn't be, don't drink anything while you eat, right? It like, again, like I say obviously, right? And I'm like, yeah, duh. But I had to learn that too. And I think like, man, like just these little tricks, like these little things like that. And if you say to somebody like, what are you drinking while you eat? They're like, I drink a soda while I eat, or I'll drink water while I eat. Like, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Just try not to do that. And you'll be amazed at how much better your digestion works.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So cool. Sarah, this has been such a fun conversation. I'm so happy I was able to connect with you here. I'd love to send all my viewers, listeners your way to check out your channel. Again, I think if they made it all the way through this conversation, they're going to love more of the stuff that you got. Even if they made it halfway, they're going to love, checking out your channel. So, where can people go to find you online if they want to connect with you, if they want to work with you? Where would you send people?
Yeah, my main hub where I'm probably the easiest to get a hold of is over on Instagram, and it's just at carnivore.yogi. And then my YouTube channel, if you just search Carnivore Yogi on YouTube, it'll pull up my channel with all my interviews. I also have a podcast on Apple and Spotify and all the things called the Carnivore Yogi podcast that updates weekly. So those are the best ways. And I have done some webinars on quantum health. I'm doing another one this coming Sunday. This podcast probably won't be out by then, but I've been doing a lot of webinars lately, just educating people more on quantum health and how they can use these things like the sun, circadian rhythms, to dial in their hormones and actually lose weight without doing all the macro tracking, calorie tracking, how to use blue blockers, how to mitigate your light environment. All that stuff is kind of my new passion that I've been doing more webinars about. So that you can usually find the links to my webinars and even the replays over on my Instagram in the bio.
Love it. I'm going to make sure to link with all that stuff as I send out the show notes and in the description of the podcast, and make sure people connect with you. So, Sarah, like I said, this was a blast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody enjoyed what they heard. Make sure, listener view, you go check Sarah out on Instagram and over on YouTube, and check out her podcast as well. And for all things holistic nootropics, head on over to holisticnootropics.com. Until next time, peace.
Thanks for listening. For more brain-boosting info, in-depth articles, and show notes, check out holisticnootropics.com.